Hello and welcome. And now let's look at the 32nd verse called the Rebelling Shadow from the book Footprints on Waters Free. Now, this verse illuminates how everything that appears is simply life. It's simply this one formlessness that appears as all form. And it alone appears, everything that appears is natural. Is so whether it is the orientation of an apparent form, or it is the rebelling, or it is apparent views, or it is even the apparent illusion that there is a self, and and if the self appears, the world appears. So there is an apparent world out there, even the illusion. And so it also illuminates how when the apparent song of unconditional love is heard, of this unconditional love or life or freedom is heard, then apparently, and if there are apparent glimpses, then apparently there seems to be a rush to share them. When there are apparent glimpses, somehow there seems to be an urgency to share this apparent glimpse or illumination. And non duality is then almost turned into a theory or a philosophy, whereas non dual means not to. So, and this also speaks about immigrants, immigration, about education, and how there's rebelling against systems by uh, the young ones, and how apparently immigrants speak about values and culture and tradition. So it illuminates the apparent, you could say, illusion of the dual dream. Now, there are just dialogues in this, and it's a narrator who's telling an apparent story. And so I'll just read out a few because it's a very long poem. It's a long story. So I'll just read out whatever seems to come up. Narrator, I send an invite to everyone to recall I'm this here one, to see the reality all does rise and leave without a clause or prize. Now, he says, allow me to explain by an account predominant in certain backgrounds where the apparent alive scenes when portray the enacted scenes, the rhythm of a domestic cuisine, which are simply attributes appearing and are deemed as a story. Now, it's a usual bee family of four migrated to Australia show for the desire to calm and affluent life, and the parents are really skilled, educated, have amazing professions, and pursue a very privileged lifestyle where they have honey, where they employ the honey, the cleaner, butler, au pair to care for the family's affair. And the two boys grew in loving care of parents, and the au pair experienced an idyllic time of holidays, feasts, and social climb. Now, let me tell you of a certain day which changed the dynamic of the play. At dinner, guided the parent bees, the offspring about life on leaves. The honey muttered throughout the scene as he served dinner, but seemed unseen. Now, the father says it's time to go to university, career in healing, a degree or a job in engineering, beehives, counting, pulling, ordering lives. Now the honey mumbles, there they go again, preaching dogmatic domains. Don't they see there's nowhere to go? It's always here in each scenario. And what high and what low, when one alone is the show. But who am I to disdain the trails of grandiose dreams and looming sails? Now, the mother goes on how education earns admiration, surety, how education is also deemed as, is associated with success, and money is associated with, and of course, there's the son who rebels against everything and questions the system, and how this poem illuminates how one aspect cannot define life. Honey mumbling, they label me mad, 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 while a shadow for them is their lad. They wish the child to echo the art of their shadow. Identity, identity, nothing but pure insanity. First they struggle to create one, then to die to its sustain with its tongue, thus deepening hierarchy, creating further complexity, then pine freedom for freedom from the mess to live a life free of distress. But how could I forget? The self is bound in its net, lives in linear planes of life and its apparent planes. Forgets life is beyond direction, is here without contraction, lost in labyrinths of value, meaning, ignores this life simple and amazing, thus labels cooking, playing, cleaning, the chores as mundane and demeaning, which is deemed by certain apparent cultures where education is given importance, so they think these chores are demeaning. Then wishes to escape its emergent for imaginary brilliance, constantly complains plentiful, then calls it successful. Yet what to say of the self's deeds when none exists to endeavors feed? Now the uh, elder son rebels. He says the self is beyond confines. Aspects can't define the self, which is beyond confines. Like a wave can't portray the ocean, one cannot be defined by notions. So an aspect of life cannot determine life, so they cannot become my identity, career, marriage, property, culture, whatever. Now, of course, the parents are surprised and shocked for any kind of um, any kind of non-acceptance of their word is deemed as dissidence or disobedience. Now he goes on, the child, he says, our culture for hype of constancy, pursue healing with honey or engineering beehives or whatever. And he says, is that, isn't education learning to, it's like learning to hunt for a kill. It's no, you cannot measure intelligence. And then he speaks about how insular is the tradition and culture and how it creates hierarchy and comparison and jealousy and pity and disease of comparison, whatever. Now, the parents are outraged. Um, but then he goes on, he says, because the self appears, so does the world. And how he speaks about, he says, Dad, the world lays undue importance on natural views and pretends, so snubbed is this alive presence for dictated beliefs or semblance. Then it grants posthumous pride only in hindsight. But would it change the tide today for Turing and Wilde? So, and then, of course, then he speaks about, he rebels about systems, how it is, systems are conceptual, collective myth, cerebral, even society is a myth in appearance without a pit. And he says these apparent universities, they're founded, uh, and then we grade them hierarchy, churn theories, and alacrities. But is it all not simply an illusion? An energetic expression. He says that's what the honey says. Now, the honey mumbles, a mascot for them is the boy, but to accept them is koi for the seeker scenario. Now, here everyone, apparently, in this story, deems their perception to be the reality, whereas it's only life that appears as that. Now, I'll just read out, I'll skip a lot, but I'll just read out a few of mumblings of the honey and the narrator now. Honey mumbling, they seem all like dry sands of the beaches of Australian light, which are ever near the shore but are parched to the core, yet also cosmic joke with no bloke to laugh or croak, surprise, suspense. And then he says, I wish I could show you there's none split from life its hues. Life appears as father, mother, and sons, yet is untouched, belongs to none. Investment in the yarn, novel old adorned is a myth, for there's nothing. None appears as the occurring pun. So whatsoever becomes apparent is energy, a star current. Spontaneous is this presence, and nothing is past this occurrence. There's only the unknown, with no way to make it known. Particles dancing as a substance, floating in infinite innocence. Apparent each scenario, without ideals to follow. Truly, all there is this: the blues, nothingness, or bliss. But then he deems that if you hear this message, somehow there will be an effect where the self will fall away. So then that's the dream of duality and how it's turned into a teaching. So then the honey mumbles again, no hope to find. It's just life as it is without a bind, a feast of frames with all its names, a disagreement with much ado, an apparent play without a script, blank page, a dreamt manuscript. Then now the narrator says, in an apparent account, all seems to be paramount, all seems very important. So seek solutions, gourmet, the bees who restless stay. But were the bees lost in tenure or sense, or was it simply an occurrence? Without a causal subsequence, an energetic tryst of silence, pulsating liveless in play, a perfectly precious buffet. And the narrator continues after a pause. I appear as all cuisines, celebrate each and every scene, my invitations, each emotion, each thought, each act, and all the notions. I am the parent, child, and honey sweet, the father's doubts, mother's tears, honey's treat. Appear as the orientation of the sun, yet am nothing, so belong to none. I narrate this tale of precepts and turn these words in a concept. Arise as thoughts and freedom, then am mesmerized by their wisdom. Believe they are a belief system, then blame the mind for its dictum. But my illusion can't be undone. For my appearance, each and every one. All that appears is my play, not different in any way. I'm not lost, so can't be found. The real unreal can't meet, abound. So seeking me, the futile fuel. For I alone am one, being dual. So I can't be accepted or shunned, nor can be known or plumbed. Rebelling shadow or not, I am complete in all rhythms and each beat. I am this, I am life. So it speaks about how life appears as everything, everything, be it traditional, parody, rebelling, or be it the illusion of the self, or be it this immediacy, or be it the illusion that someone can become free and turn it into a teaching. So life appears as everything, and yet it is untouched by everything that appears, everything. So, and it's naturally what is. Thank you.